Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And we are back here with our friends from Pathfinders Downsizing Solutions based out of Tampa, Florida. Janeen and Renee, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Awesome.
Living
Thank
the
you.
dream.
Yay! And we're also live on the Zoom cast today, which is great. I get to see them face to face. Would you mind starting off by introducing yourselves? Thank you.
You go first.
I'll go first. Okay. Hi, I'm Renee Matthews. I am co-founder of Pathfinders Downsizing Solutions. And my background that I bring to our business is I have a master's in senior wellness and more decades than I want to admit in the senior living industry.
And I'm Janeen Salzgeber. I'm the other half of Pathfinders Downsizing Solutions. My background's interior design and corporate communications and interior design are my degrees.
Beautiful. Well, we are excited to have you here based out of beautiful Florida. And by the way, you offer, so many different things besides downsizing. Just give us some examples of some of the other work you do overall.
Absolutely. So we found that COVID was a wonderful learning opportunity for us to also realize that we could handle probate inventories, for instance, and disbursement. We handle extreme content. We organize clients as well. And we think, what else?
Well, we've done, we can break it up into smaller, more manageable chunks. We call an extraction when we are helping somebody pull things from their home that's going to go to their new address. And then we call it a boomerang when we come back and we handle whatever that looks like for what's left that didn't get moved. And so that is an interesting scenario depending if somebody's moving locally, are they going long distance? We can handle a lot of different unusual recipes and ingredients to what is going to make that transition successful.
Perfect. Well, today you mentioned this is podcast number 5 now, right?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
And I have here a beautiful colored thing. It's not, I don't know if it's the notes you wanted me to have, to be honest with you. It says podcast 4, then podcast 5. How do I even start? Why do I do, what do I do with my extra stuff? I don't know if you guys sent the right notes or someone else did. So we may have to go on the cuff with this one for today. What is today's topic?
So today we were just going to talk about how did this even happen? You know, a lot of times our clients are kind of shell-shocked when they come to us because they've realized, okay, it's time to move, but I've lived in my house for 20 years, or my mom's lived in her house for 20 years, and it's like all these memories and what on earth, and how do we even get here? Because you just start kind of processing and you realize that every single flipping thing, it's no filter Wednesday, it has an emotional attachment to it, a cognitive or a physical, and then a physical chore to do something with it, either pack it up and move it with you or find it a new home or discard it. So what does that all look like? It's just very, very daunting.
And what's interesting is people are surprised how much time we estimate it's going to take to go through all of that content. So somebody who's been in that house for 40 years, you know, they think all of a sudden we go, bewitched, it's all going to be empty and ready for the real estate transaction. And I'm like, I do that every so often. It hasn't worked yet, but if I do, you know, we'll be lottery winners. But it takes time, and the unknown is the person able to go through things with some emotional connectivity but have a little bit of distance, or do they have to look at everything, tell you the story, go down memory lane, and that takes time and effort. And so that's a real challenge, and sometimes we have to have that difficult conversation with people that the estimate was the average person going through their belongings, and you are a little bit more of a slower going through, and this is kind of what it's going to look like. I was talking to Angela about that today.
Yeah, we were just talking
about it. And so then having to reset the person's expectations, and are they willing to go, it's my things and I want to have more time? Or is it like, oh, I do have a budget and a time frame and I need to hurry up? And I think just being very clear with
Yeah.
communication to not only the senior, which is generally the client, but also the family members involved, and explaining to them, this is kind of where things are going, because often the kids are like, come on, come on,
Yeah.
come on. And mom and dad are like, it's my things. And I want to be in
Yeah.
charge. We joke about, they're driving the bus, but we're sitting in the passenger seat doing shotgun, trying to kind of do some navigation. And that can be an interesting experience.
Yes.
So what you do afterwards.
And having a third party person come in and help you with this, there's not the attachment that even the children have.
Yeah.
But we represent a caring relationship that cares about, and we want to hear the stories, but we're going to keep them moving. So they get a little bit of both, but we can argue what goes in that box. And then the kids can actually enjoy the transition with their parents to what this new normal looks like. Part of this is also dealing and wrestling with your own mortality, your parents' mortality. I mean, it's deep stuff. It is really deep work, and it's so much more psychology than we ever imagined. But it's important. It's a caring and it's a calling. We love it.
And we often recommend, give it to people now. Don't wait. You may assume that, your son wants your, traveling spoon collection on the wall. But truth of the matter is not so much. And the wife is probably like, I'm not taking that. But
Yeah.
you could have the conversation about maybe he was on the trip when you got these couple of spoons, and they do want to be able to have that as a memory. So we often kind of have a conversation with family members on kind of some compromises a bit, let's make a deal on what's going to go with you, maybe what can go to your son or your daughter, and then the piece to release of, where can these other things go that is actually going to be a valuable impact to the community that you live in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, by the way, I just want to remind everyone of the website and your contact information. We didn't get that off the top. So how can we reach you? I can read it, 855-HOUR PATH. That's 855-HOUR PATH. But would you mind sharing your social media pages and of course your website as well?
Sure. It's Facebook. On Facebook, we're at Pathfinders Downsizing. And the same, and the 855-HOUR PATH is actually 855, but it's 687-7284. So that's really easy. And then our website is pathfindersdownsizing.com.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So again, I'm going to ask you all to continue for podcast 5 because it wasn't attached. So we'll continue with the conversation. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So basically people always say, how on earth did we get there? And we kind of take a historical perspective, because as Americans, we have a tendency to have a lot of stuff that's just kind of our way. And how do we even get there? So we talk about the perspective of a lot of our clients remember Little House on the Prairie because they watched that. And they also watched Happy Days. Well, that time span is actually between those two, Laura Ingalls and the Fonz, is actually only 80 years. And that explains to you World War I, World War II, Industrial Revolution, trade deals, the invention of plastics, designed obsolescence. And that only gets you to the 50s. And we all know, because our hair is on fire now, from 50 to present, this next 70 years, what that looks like, and the global weight of all of this stuff. And so it somehow, I don't know, we have never caught it, but somehow it breeds in the back of the closet, and there's more stuff in there than they ever remembered. And so we kind of put it together in that way. And so a lot of times what we do with that remnant content, which is always kind of like, well, what are you going to do with the rest of the stuff? I know what I'm taking with me, but what are you doing with the rest of the stuff? And we created a program called Project Good Works, and we reach out and develop a network here in the Tampa Bay market of nonprofits that are ministering to the smaller, they're the smaller nonprofits. Anybody could drop it off to a donation center, but what we try and do is help our clients to make an impact in the community. So it's initiatives that take care of foster care, not only families, but the kids that are aging out, veterans, homelessness, domestic violence, dogs and cats.
I mean, when you're downsizing and you're going through, like, let's say your linen closet, you're only going to need X amount of linens in your new address. Well, gosh, those dogs and cats are happy to take your old, towels and stuff, because they can utilize it. And the nonprofits are tickle pink because they can only be washed so many times. And coats. And a lot of people have, tons of coats because they maybe moved here from a different geographic area and don't need it that often in Tampa Bay. But if somebody's homeless and they're outside, that coat could provide them with some warmth when we do have the cold snaps in Tampa Bay, or shoes, all those kinds of things. And that really makes a difference. And we often tell people, we're trying to work with the nonprofits that within hopefully 24 to 48 hours, that new person has that in their possession. And that's a very different mindset than some of the larger, I'd say, big box donation sites that have a whole machine, behind, in the background. But these folks are much more of a smaller footprint, but a equally as large impact to the community.
Got it. And also, just again here, so they were calling this Project Good Works, and I'm trying so hard on my end to open your PDF. It's not opening. The station just sent it to me, so I apologize. Thank you.
No worries at all.
No.
We try and create a sensitivity to geosensitive, because the smaller ones are geosensitive, to connect them to stuff that are close by to them. And so that's how we do it. And we'd love to tell you some stories. Are we up on a break?
No, we're not taking no break today. When we're doing Zooms, we don't take break, but we're going to keep, of course, reminding everyone how we can reach out to you all during the whole show. You keep going, sweetheart. We're good. We got our 17 minutes ahead of us. Go for it.
So we really do have some funny stories on, you find things and you're like, where did that come from? So I know we shared the one story that, and I was helping work this client where we found 3 prosthetic legs, but Janeen had met the father who had moved and he had all of his legs. So she had to ask the son, like, where did this come from? Come to find out, it was an uncle who lived in the home and he'd passed away. And she said, what are we going to do with these legs? The favorite is that she had in the back of her convertible Morgan. And I opened up the garage, these legs. Can you imagine 3 legs sticking out of it? I'm like, I can just see the neighbors going, what in the world happened there? But I had been at a event, and there was a nonprofit in the area called 50 Legs, and they take those kinds of things and they repurpose the parts and allow people that don't have the insurance benefit of being able to get something like that. They help them out. And so sure enough, we drove about 2.5 hours away to personally donate those legs to the nonprofit. And that, got redone, and hopefully 3 at a minimum people were positively impacted by that donation. That, who'd have thought we needed to worry about where that can go?
Right? Yeah, for sure.
But that's not the craziest thing we found. So the golf balls.
Well, right. Well, okay. So one time we got to a closet. We opened up the closet, did not even realize that there was a closet in the room. And we got to the closet and 3 feet of golf balls just spilled out like an avalanche. And they didn't even live on a golf course, which was particularly weird. But anyway, but we were able to donate those to an organization, Chichi Rodriguez First Tee. And so they teach inner city kids how to play golf.
Yeah.
So boom, that was a win-win. Our client felt more peace to release because they were impacting the community. And probably our favorite story is there's 2 foster parents that were raising 10 kids in one house. They were having to feed them on 3 separate tables throughout the house. I only had 3 kids, but that's like next level kind of
wow.
Bananas,
Yeah, absolutely.
And so anyway, so they're feeding these 10 kids, loving on them, taking care of them. It's just so much trauma and so much angst for these kids in this space and where they were in the chapter of their lives. And we had a client that had a 14-foot dining room table. It was 30 years old and built like a brick house. It was like King Arthur's court. And it could seat 14 people easily. But she couldn't take that thing to her 2-bedroom apartment. And it's very challenging to sell something like that. Unless you were doing a full estate sale. And even then that's challenging. So it's just, people don't live that big anymore. Especially when you are starting out. So anyway, we connected the client to this foster care family, and they were able to take that that table. And now when I went back to the client, she said, realistically, maybe 5 times I had that table full of people, full of a fat turkey coming to the table, and we just had Thanksgiving and all that Norman Rockwell kind of look or a scene was maybe 5 times in the 30 years that I've had the thing. And I said, well, now 5 times, 3 times a day, there's probably going to be, a food fight breaking out on one end,
Of
spilled milk
course.
on another. But the point is that those 10 kids understand what it is to have family gathered around a table. They understand it and can value that. And then they take it to their kids. What an impact. I mean, that was 10 kids immediately, but their kids, that's tenfold. That's an incredible impact. And they were so sweet. Tell them what they did.
So, we just had Thanksgiving, but the X amount of years ago, they took a picture and actually sent that to the client with all the kids around the dining room table. And so she's got it at her, place now, and she can look at that and just smile and think about how awesome it is that
I know
she didn't get a penny. But
No.
she impacted all of those children, the mothers, and that now gives them a real sense of family versus people eating in a bunch of different locations. And it's really, you got to wonder. And that's a challenge we have with folks think, they think, oh my God, I paid $1,000 for something 20 years ago, and it's going to be worth $1,000 now. We're like, well, depending, very rarely did you get a little bit more value for it, but it is a constant conversation about that of, well, did you enjoy it for X amount of years? How much did that cost you over those years? And we had the same client with the legs. The son was looking to try to, sell some things, and it was a lot of stuff. And
but at unrealistic prices, like I feel like that you might need, or maybe you guys are trained. It's like to be a psychologist, because a lot of people have this attachment and detachment issue with things. We all have it, guilty, and it's hard to let things go. And you really think in your mind, this is what it's worth because I bought it at that much money and I want that much money for it. And yeah, when you're talking 20 years old and it was $1,000, it's probably worth $50, if that. But it's a hard thing. And I give you guys credit because that's hard to talk to someone to try to change their mind and their thought process around it. But it's beautiful the way you're speaking to me about it. And clearly it's working, because it's important to be able to give back and to realize you did get such good use out of it. And so,
we call it, and this hits close to home for me. My husband has a roll top desk that he rescued 35 years ago out of a barn. He's a tinkerer. He loves to restore things. And he spent quite a bit of money on this thing that was basically a pile of sticks, but he put it together. It's a big monster. And I said, okay, Jim, we call him Big Daddy, but anyway, Jim, tell me, how does this desk function for how we work today? Does it have a grommet so that we can run the cables and the wires for the computer? Well, no. Is it big and portable? Or small and portable? And he goes, no, it's big and heavy and exactly. So it just doesn't, it's got all the cubbies and it's super sexy for him to look at. And I said, look at this. Okay, what you paid for it, and you've had it for 35 years. If you take what you paid for it and the therapy time that you had with it as you restored it, if you amortize that over the course of the last 35 years that you've had it, it's only a couple of dollars, really. Maybe $100, let's just say $100 a year. Did it bring you that much joy? $100 a year? And he goes, oh my gosh, absolutely. I'm like, then you have joy value. It's
joy value, #joy value. I love that. I never heard that term.
It just is. And it's like, okay, I can let it go now because it served me.
Yes.
And now it can either serve somebody else or it's had its day, because we all have our day. And so that's kind of how we help our clients kind of come to terms with it. Sometimes it's hard. We don't even try and pretend that it's not, but trying to put your brain wrapped around it a little bit
Yeah. And is it better that you've got a certain, let's just say you're downsizing your kitchen, and I always use the story of you've got 12 place settings and you're moving, and they're going to help you with a meal a day. So you really only need a place setting for 4. Well, now you've got a place setting for 8 left over. We can box that up and make it one box of 4, a separate box of 4, a couple of pots, a couple of pans, a couple of pieces of silverware. And that gives 2 different somebody's a kitchen startup, just a little something to get going. And that could be foster kids aging out. That could be somebody who left a domestic, life partner, who knows what.
Oh,
But
yeah.
isn't it better to say, okay, I've enjoyed this, or somebody's got china,
Yeah.
take it to China if you like it, to your new address, and donate the old stuff. But nobody's going to want your Lenox china or your Hummels, or
It's hard.
Hummels. Yes. Oh, wow. That's
yeah.
exactly. I
And
remember
it's tough
those.
because people spend a lot of money, and probably really it was hard to get the money to buy that little something. And there's
Correct.
a story. But you think about people in a 40 to 60-year-old age range, they don't have display cases of little things. They may have 1 or 2 some things that maybe grandma gave them, but they
Yeah.
don't have a house full. And it's tough because they think, oh, everybody's going to want all of this. And the truth of the matter is, very little do people want. And it's a hard conversation to have with people. But if they can donate it, if they can sell it, something like
Find
that.
another life, kind
Yes.
of like rehoming pets.
Yeah.
We rehome stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We have rehome pets, but we don't like rehome stuff.
I love it. I love it.
Exotic, please God. I'm not, I don't get flustered easily, but somebody got like a boa constrictor or something, I think I'd be like, you got to come up with that.
My goodness. You two, you're like the dynamic duo. And I think you all need your own show, let alone like I could picture watching you. Come on. There's a lot of shows of people moving, decorating. This would be the perfect show. Did you guys ever pitch yourself like for a television show?
With Janeen and
I mean, you may get picked up. I mean, clearly you're out there in the public. You have a great business. You're here with us, but like you need your own TV show. I would love to see you all in action, going in, meeting the clients, watching the whole process happen. Not a bad idea if you know someone down there, but I mean, you never know.
It's the question of are there enough clients who are comfortable letting the
True.
world know their story?
Yeah.
Hey,
there's a show called Hoarders out there. There's
Yes,
plenty of people willing to
and
let
we
it.
know that guy.
and we know that guy.
Do you? Oh,
Yes.
awesome. See,
And so
now you
have
have a TV
changed,
connection for a pitch.
but I have not trademarked, but I changed the wording to be a little bit softer, and I call it extreme content. And it's a way to say you have way too much stuff, but hoarders kind of is a sticky wicket. So saying extreme content's a little nicer. And so we try to
And
wordsmith it.
a lot of times it's a curated thing. We recently did a gentleman, and he was an artist and he collected art, and he had a ton of it. And we were able to go in and take his, like we said, Herb, pick out your favorite pieces that just gotta go. Well, there was 100 pieces of art, and he was only moving into a 1-bedroom apartment. We got 100 pieces of art in that 1-bedroom apartment, and it looks amazing. It looks like it's curated. It speaks to him. It has his vibe, everything, and it turned out beautiful. He could not, but that's not necessarily for everybody. But we're never afraid of art because nobody trips on art typically.
Yeah.
It's hung on the wall. And so our clients are safe with art, and it gives them joy. Gives them memories and recall on things and stories to tell and all that kind of stuff. We love art.
So I'm going to tag on to the recall side. The other
Sure,
thing
go for it.
is we actually do photo digitization. And so I just heard a commercial last night for one of the digital frames that's got the Wi-Fi and everything. So I just want to throw that out there too, that we can go in, and we've got one lady that's got boxes and boxes of photo albums, and she had just given me a little bit. And when we got the count, it was over 3,000 single photos, and it was not that much. I was like, wow, that's a lot. But that's now on she wanted a disc, but we can't normally use a thumb drive. But think about the space that you could save by not keeping every photo, keep the ones you love, but also stick it in one of those electric frames. And then all of a sudden, I haven't seen that picture of little John.
Yes.
And it's awesome for people that are cognitively impaired.
Yes.
And they have kind of they're tracking towards memory care and that level of care, something like that is so cherished for them because that's where they're going in their memories. And so there are pictures of them in kindergarten with little bobby socks on or whatever. They can totally understand and know who that is. They will recall that immediately. My mother-in-law was a dementia patient and we were her caregivers. So my kids went from 4 to 84. And as she declined, we were able to relate to all different kinds of ways, but also recall her kindergarten years. And she was 84, 85 years old when she passed away. So those kinds of places where they go to, it's just a cherished little thing that you can do for somebody that does have cognitive impairment. So
And then also it's a space saving thing. That's one of the things that we specialize in is like, how do you work around that space? So somebody who's downsizing, we're going to be looking at, is there, an over the toilet organizer where you can put some things or something under the sink or changing something in the closet? And, how do you make the best use of the space so that they can have the things they love, but it's also done in a way that it's not, concerning a fall or things like that. But it can work for anybody. I go through the Facebook things all the time for the organization and clearing the clutter and looking at that going, oh, I'm stealing that idea for sure. Yeah, and so you just never know, just because we do this for a living, it doesn't mean we don't have to do the same challenge.
Well, every person is a little different and every environment's a little bit different. So if the client, we've got, like on light switches, they might have a torchère lamp or something like that they really love. It means home to them. They can't reach up there anymore. So there's adaptable plugs that will allow them to turn them into tap lights. And they can reach it from their bed or from their easy chair or whatever and have light so that they can, walk about and enjoy their environment, but it's safe and they're not impeded by their own physical, decline and reaching abilities and stuff like that. So,
and the other thing that happens is people have larger scale furniture generally in a home. The kids and stuff. And so the other thing that we have a conversation with, because we do the floor plan to scale, Janeen, being an interior designer, uses CAD and so does her assistant. So it's, it's exact. And the neat thing is you can show somebody this is what's going to fit and explain this is not. And then if everything they have is really big, then we can go on Wayfair. We have a corporate account and help them do some shopping because sometimes you just have to start new. I redid my office several months ago and it was a situation. I called the junk removal and said, take it all. And I'm starting. And,
Absolutely.
I got new desks and new stuff too.
And we call that right size.
Guys, I apologize. We're out of time. We have a minute and a half left. I'm sorry. So let's wrap up the conversation. That's what I'm saying. You need a show. You need an hour show. That's edited down because we can talk for hours and then edit it down to something beautiful. But really, you girls are amazing with what you do, the people you help. Let's remind our listeners here how we can reach you. And please feel free to share the website and all your information.
So you've got the 855 number there, but the numbers are 855-687-7284. You can check our website out at pathfindersdownsizing.com. There is a click there to be able to contact us, or you can go on Facebook. And if you just put Pathfinders Downsizing, it'll take you right to our Facebook page. And there's videos and posts and all kinds of interesting stuff if you want to follow two crazy girls.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time. Really pleasure to get to see you. Looking forward to do this again. Contact your friend with Hoarders because you guys have a show. You have a show. I'm not kidding. You have a great day. Thank you again.
Thanks, Jill.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
when I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.